This is a fan-generated show. If you would like to support us, please go to jamieglazov.com and also don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. All your support is greatly appreciated.
Welcome to the Glazov gang. Ari David here again for Jamie Glazov, who's away on assignment. With me today is former INS agent Michael Cutler, who gave testimony to the 9/11 Commission and wrote some papers, or a amazing paper, about what it is we haven't learned after 14 years from the 9/11 attacks and the resulting aftermath in our response. So, Michael, welcome to the show, and what do you have to tell us about what we have not learned from the 9/11 Commission in the aftermath of the attack?
Well, you know, when the Space Shuttle Challenger exploded, they commissioned a study to find out what went wrong so it wouldn't happen again. Same thing when Columbia blew up, Space Shuttle, when airplanes crashed. And it was for that purpose that the 9/11 Commission did an exhaustive investigation. I knew some of the members of the commission, the agents, the attorneys who were there. And I will tell you something. Every bit of advice where immigration is concerned that was provided to the administration, we've gone in the opposite direction. It's not even that we've not learned the lesson. It's almost as though our government, and I would say both sides of the aisle with a few exceptional members, seem to be trying out to get the MVP award from ISIS and Al-Qaeda. We told them and the other people, I was one of many people who were questioned, who provided testimony, and we told them, if you can't prevent the terrorists from entering the United States, we are vulnerable. We right now have, and I don't think it's 11 million, we probably have 30, 40, we have no idea what's here. You know, in '86, the Reagan administration said we had 1 million aliens who would come out of the shadows. We wound up with almost 4 million. We're told 11 million, maybe it's 40 million. But just think what 19 terrorists did to not only America, but the world, and we've got the anniversary coming up in a couple of days. Think of what 2 Boston bombers did in Massachusetts 2 years ago. So to continue to allow history to repeat itself because of greed, because of corruption, because people want to appease the people writing the checks. You know, I'm not saying this as an endorsement for Donald Trump, but I got to tell you, I am ecstatic that he came out and made immigration the centerpiece of his campaign, at least thus far. I'm not supporting anybody at this point. It's way too early. But I'm ecstatic. And the points that he's made is accurate. You know, when you look at campaign contributions, Ari, they're nothing more than thinly veiled bribes. As a federal agent, I was not allowed to accept a cup of coffee when I was on duty. And it made sense. You have people accepting money as though it was being run off a printing press and being used in a monopoly game. And you don't think that it influences the decisions that they make? It's about cheap labor, an unlimited supply of students, and an unlimited flow of tourists coming to the United States. We are bankrupting America. We have people dying every day. The Steinle case, who was killed by an illegal alien, that's not an isolated case. This has been going on for decades. So when I look at all the lunacy, and I look at the fact that the TSA has 45,000 people at the airport doing what they do, and we have 7,000 immigration agents who also do customs work, so maybe we're down to 3,000 agents enforcing immigration laws from within the interior for the whole country, 20,000 Border Patrol agents, 22,000, I believe it was, inspectors conducting inspections at ports of entry of passengers and cargo. And if it doesn't matter how you come here, why are we spending billions of dollars to do the inspections? And we've given citizenship to terrorists who've attacked us. Look at Faisal Shahzad, the Times Square bomber. This guy was naturalized months before he set off that car bomb that, thank God, didn't kill anybody, but well could have. And he's not the only one. One of the Tsarnaev brothers was naturalized. And now we're looking at this avalanche of humanity headed this way because of the turmoil in the Middle East that, in my judgment, largely created by this administration's failure to lead. We've created a vacuum, and look what filled the vacuum. ISIS, Al-Qaeda, turmoil. You can't expect that a vacuum will be a good thing in this perilous world. And so they're headed this way, and everyone's saying, well, let's have sympathy for them. And you know something, Ari? My grandmother, for whom I was named, was killed in the Holocaust. I'm Jewish. I'm a big fan of political asylum. but not when we have no idea who we're bringing in. And in fact, Newsweek magazine, November last year, 2014, did a story about how our own CIA could not vet 5,000 supposed freedom fighters in Syria. Some of the people they said were good to go turned out to be kidnappers and terrorists. Imagine if we start admitting, and we have been admitting, I've been to Minnesota, I did a ride along with the police. I was in the jail cell that Moussaoui, the 20th hijacker, occupied in Minnesota. So we're bringing in all these folks, no vetting process. What could possibly go wrong? And by the way, if you want to know if the borders are secure, you know what the best metric is? Forget those nonsense arrest statistics that the Border Patrol gives. And by the way, it's not just the Mexican border. We have 50 border states. Any state with an international airport or a seaport is a border state. But the statistics are as meaningless as unemployment numbers. You know, we have a 5.1% unemployment rate and 93 million Americans unemployed or underemployed. The best metric is the price of heroin and cocaine. We are in the midst of the worst heroin epidemic, arguably, in history. In New York, Governor Cuomo has now allocated close to $250,000 to provide the antidote for heroin overdoses to nurses in public schools. That's how bad it has gotten. So our border is a speed bump. We have millions of people here from all over the world. It's not just about Mexico. That's an absurdity. But we do have the Quds forces, the Iranians, coming in through Latin America. Every week they're flying right into Caracas, Venezuela. We have terror training camps in the tri-border region of Brazil. And when you look at the 9/11 Commission, they warned about political asylum. They warned about giving out green cards. This administration has given hundreds of thousands of illegal aliens, the dreamers, who could be as old as 31, and most terrorists tend to be under 31 years of age, by the way, the ones that actually commit the acts of violence. So there's no face-to-face interview. Think about that. There's no field investigation. They just have to check off the right boxes on the application and make the right statements. Yes, I came in when I was 14. No one's going to verify anything. Do you realize this is an act of national suicide?
Yes, absolutely. And even worse so is when you hear about programs like, say, the NSA spying, where they're wasting all this money spying on everyday Americans for emailing or Twittering or Facebooking. And they have this army of people making us take off our shoes at the airports because they don't want to profile for political correctness reasons. Meanwhile, the terrorists like the Tsarnaev brothers are posting on Facebook their very intentions. You don't need a TSA to find their online activity. They're posting it for us.
I have a better one. They got political asylum, which means they had a credible fear that they could never go back to Russia without endangering their safety and well-being, correct? They went back to Russia. This isn't low-hanging fruit, Ari. This is fruit in the basket. And you see, we have a Department of Homeland Security. Where is the security? You know, and by the way, this goes back to both parties. Mayor Rudy Giuliani, who just testified, they had a hearing at the World Trade Center site. And you know, the ashes landed in my home on 9/11. My neighbors died. And they talked about how do we prevent the next attack? But with the exception of Giuliani, what they had there primarily were first responders. They don't prevent anything. They're there to clean up the mess after our government fails. Where was Homeland Security? Where was the FBI? Where was the military? Nowhere to be found. They hold a hearing. They call it Homeland Security. I've come to call DHS the Department of Homeland Surrender. What do you think of that?
I think that's a perfect example. And what you're saying is basically like calling the coroner to solve the crime. The coroner is just there to clean up the mess, like you're saying. Well, Michael Cutler, writer, Front Page Mag online, former retired senior agent with the INS. Thank you for joining us. Make sure for our wonderful viewing audience out there to go to jamieglazov.com and support our crowdfunding efforts to support the show in the future. You can hear from guests like Michael how important this show is to really get the word out about things that aren't discussed in the mainstream media every day. And make sure you go to youtube.com and subscribe to our YouTube channel called The Glazov Gang. Again, this is Ari David. I'll see you next time.